Hello, this video is sponsored by Wondrium. I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to words, specifically American English words that since living in the United States I've come to use every single day. Now you might remember that a few minutes ago in the month of August, I did a video looking at 12 such words, and as promised in that very video, here is a sequel. Because when you move to another country, there's no getting away from the fact that you'll absolutely take on its vocabulary in spades. And so without further ado, here are 12 American English words that I now use every single day, part 2. I don't know how they do it, but they do. It feels like every single summer, without fail, I'll go to my windowsill and there'll be a bug on there with dots all around it, right? And we have those in England, we have them here. It's usually dead, which is very sad and very tragic. And just thinking about it makes it hard to complete this video, but I must. Now in Britain, I always knew this insect as a ladybird, but the only ladybird they've ever had in the United States was a first lady, which I don't know how that works. But here, I came to learn that they're referred to as ladybugs. And so because I always have to tell my wife, oh, there's another dead ladybug on the window, I have to use that word in order to communicate it without any sense of confusion. One of the common features of American English words that have entered my vocabulary is that they pertain to something that I use quite frequently. And that's very much true of these because I live with a cat. And in Britain, we generally know these as plasters. Whereas in the United States, they could go by a couple of names like Elastoplast, right? That's the brand name on this one. But mostly people refer to them as Band-Aids, which is also a brand name that's become genericized. I just thought I'd make that clear for my British viewers so that they don't think it has anything to do with the 1985 supergroup of the same name. Anyway, I've opened this now and I don't have any genuine wounds. Forehead, put it on my forehead. All right. Well, the producers made me do this, probably for ratings. Ooh, look at silly Lawrence with a plaster on his head. Plaster's what we call them in the UK. This one I use fairly commonly, and it turns out that banking in general just has a lot of terminology differences between our two countries. But a checking account, as in your main account, is the kind of banking account that I use most often, so it's the one that I actually articulate the most. And the same was true when I lived in England, only there I'd refer to it as a current account, not because it dispensed currents, but because I actually don't know why, but that's what it's called. In America, we say checking account, and when somebody sends a YouTube sensation some money, we often have to determine where that's going to end up. So I'll tell my wife, I think we should put it in the checking account. She usually overrules that and rightly puts it into savings, but I'm trying my best. Ever so occasionally, I do find myself using this phrase, like it happened a few months ago when we got a parking app for the first time, and while filling out details on the app, I had to ask my wife, what is our license plate number? And do you know what she said? I don't know, get out of the car and look. So I did, and I'm not going to reveal the details of that, but the fact remains that I say license plate now. You just do, it just enters your vocabulary. In Britain, we would say number plate. 2008 Lawrence would be a little bit surprised to discover that 2022 Lawrence uses the word specialty, but in attempting to use the British English variant of this word, which is speciality, I've had some odd looks, especially at work. They'll often giggle at me, ooh, we put an extra vowel or two in there. Who does he think he is, Shakespeare? I am descended, probably, but that's not the point. And I don't know, I happen to have worked in American jobs where that word comes up every now and again because, you work with specialty services and the like. So it's just sort of happened. Nowadays, I have my own washing machine here in the building, but back in the day, we used to have to get all of our dirty clothes together, stick them in the car and head down to the laundrette. At least that's the word I would used to have used in the UK. But here in the Midwest, while I'm sure people would still understand what I mean, the preferred term is laundromat. And when you go there so often, and you sort of converse with each other about the fact that you're going there, you just end up saying the word and keeping it as part of your vocabulary. Funnily enough, I was reading just the other day that Americans used to refer to it as a washateria, a word that is still used in parts of the South. And it's funny that we're on the subject of laundry because every now and then when I'm cleaning the clothes, I'll pull out, some socks and I'll find one of these inside it. This right here is what is known in the United States as a bobby pin. My wife doesn't know I have this right now, now, but then she also doesn't know the whereabouts of most of her bobby pins, so I think it's probably okay. Now, I didn't have much reason when I lived in the UK to describe these on a consistent basis, except, you know, when I forgot my keys. But when I did, I usually refer to this as a Kirby grip. And it's very funny because it turns out that there's actually a lot of word differences within the realm of hair accessories. And that's before we even get into the bangs versus fringe debate, which, you know, I could do with a fringe right now. And here's another thing that I use every single day, at least on those days where I leave the house, which is once a month. And that is those paved walkways at the side of roads that are designated for pedestrians and occasionally maverick cyclists. In Britain, of course, I always knew this as the pavement, whereas in America, famously, they refer to it as a sidewalk, which, you know, makes sense. It's quite literal. It says what it does, and that's useful. And while we're on the subject of American walkways, let me tell you about something that I discovered recently. Remember when I told you about the Great Courses Plus? Well, the team behind those great courses are hard at work creating even better, broader, bigger and more brilliant educational experiences, giving you more reasons to love and pursue learning. And that's where Wondrium comes in. You see, Wondrium is where you can find all of the tried and true Great Courses Plus content and more. For instance, right, have you ever considered how the California Gold Rush actually started? Well, I have. And thanks to Wondrium, I've got my answer. You see, I've been binge watching Dr. Richard Curran's Experiencing America, a Smithsonian tour through American history, and it's amazing. Like, I've just learned that modern day California wouldn't have happened if some bloke called Marshall hadn't accidentally discovered this specific piece of gold while he was busy building a mill. We've all done it. And really, with its constantly evolving library of content, Wondrium has become my go-to place for learning about all things America. So, you know, once I've inevitably become an expert on US history, and I will, I'll turn my attention to their upcoming course on America's Great Trails, a series which is set to take an in-depth look at some of America's most beloved and beautiful hiking trails. Right, a good reminder to get off the sidewalk and experience nature, especially you maverick cyclists. Basically, Wondrium is where you find the answer to everything you've ever wondered about and some things you never imagined you'd wonder about. Their carefully curated collection of short-form and long-form videos, tutorials, how-tos, travelogues, documentaries, and more is academically comprehensive, thoroughly researched, relentlessly entertaining, and presented by engaging experts who know way more than me. And as it happens, they're giving viewers like you the fantastic offer of a free trial. Visit wondrium.com/lostinthepond right now to begin your free trial. The link is in my description below. Recently, the three of us, me, my wife, and my cat, have done a much better job of eating at home. Actually, in my cat's case, that's all he's ever done. So kudos to him. Not that he does any of the prep work, so previous sentence rescinded. The point is, we're much better about this now, but during the pandemic, it became quite common for us to get takeout. We were just in that zone where, we're housebound, so we might as well just have food delivered to us. And while that's not quite the same thing as takeout, that's delivery. In our house, delivery and takeout has somehow gone under the umbrella of takeout, so that's just the way it is. And I use this word now all the time, but I couldn't have imagined using this when I first moved to the US. People were telling me, oh, you know, when you go there, don't start calling it takeout instead of takeaway. Well, guess what? I've turned to the dark side and there's nothing you can do about it because I live 4,000 miles away. And I might even turn to those people and say, you know what, mate? I am not obligated to do anything that I don't want to do, all right? And they'll turn back around and say, you mean obliged, young sir? Because that's what I used to say. And I stopped. I don't know why. I don't have one preference over the other. It's just that the word obligated evidently felt obligated to enter my vocabulary, and now it will remain so long as I live in the US. Earlier in this video I mentioned parking, but that was usually referring to parking by the side of the road. But often you'll find yourself at somebody's establishment who, you know, they're quite popular, so they need to fill out a number of spaces just for people to go into their establishment. Well, that thing is usually called a parking lot here in the United States. And of course back home I would refer to this as a car park. It just doesn't ever more roll off my tongue. There would have been a time in the first few years of living in the United States where I still defaulted to car park, but I think the commonality of the experiences in which you talk about a car park mean that without realizing the point at which it happens, it just happens. And you start using the lingo of the people around you. And today, I now say parking lot. And all of this is especially weird because I don't even drive, right? I live in Chicago. I have trains, I have sidewalks, I have bicycles, which I ride on the road. And sometimes when I am riding on the road and it's nighttime, I might have to have one of these, although it would be referred to as a bike light in that instance. But one of these, if I'm going down to the basement to find, I don't know, a box of screwdrivers. And for the purposes of a demonstration, I was just wondering if we could dim the lights in here so I could show it off. Yeah, I use it every day. All right, thank you. Here's what I used to refer to in Britain as a torch. It's dead. The battery's dead. Well, no, I don't use it every day. I thought I'd get away with it. I don't go down to the basement. It's creepy, all right? I mostly stay upstairs. But when I do use this, can we have the lights back on, please? But when I do use this, I've slowly come to refer to it as a flashlight, as in, Tara, the entire power's gone out and it's nighttime, where's the flashlight? I don't know, Lawrence. That's not how she speaks. Why don't you turn on a flashlight? Then you'll be able to see where it is. Ha ha ha, hilarious. Anyway, it's just another example of a thing that I have to use every single day, or once a month, or a year, when I go camping. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if there are any more words that I've probably picked up since living in the United States. I'm Lawrence Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that I don't have to. A big thank you to my patrons, without whom these videos would not be possible. And if you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so today at patreon.com/LostInThePond. Until the next video, goodbye. That's plaster. Yep.